Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Today I have with me Trevor Courtier. Trevor is a strategy coach, personal growth leader, and the host of the Raising the Bar podcast. Thank you for joining me today.
Yeah. Hey, Roman. Thank you so much for having me on, man. I'm stoked to be here.
My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Okay. So my own journey, it is kind of simple, to be very honest. I went to school, and for myself, it was like, oh, I don't really know what I want to do, but my very simple minded thought was kind of, oh, the businesses run the world, so I'll go into business management. Why not? And honestly, it led me down a very unique track of actually finding a passion of myself, of my own, and it was supply chain. While I was there, I got to meet this incredible individual, my wife, and of course, being who I am, she wasn't someone who was like, "Oh, I'm also from the Midwest." No, she was from 9,000 miles away in Australia, and she was over on a working holiday visa and or study abroad visa actually, and we just stayed in touch. After I graduated, I moved over to Australia, and we basically began the whole visa process. We got married. It was an interesting journey. We brought ourselves back to the states, and while I was here, I actually had to come back before her because while I was over there, every opportunity that was being presented to me is that I had to be a permanent resident over there, unfortunately. And there is that little part at the end of all of those job descriptions that's like, "Hey, this is an entry level, but you've actually got to have experience." And it's like, well, how is that even possible? I don't even get that. And there was an opportunity that opened up back in the states, and was able to come back, but wasn't able to come back with her, which made that journey unfortunately even tougher for us. And but I gained this unique work experience for two different startups for warehousing. We were a third party logistics company, and while I was there, even though supply chain in itself, warehousing, had always kind of been like this newfound passion of mine, there was something else that was kind of developing as this passion of mine was developing, and it was honestly I enjoyed more than dealing with the customer, more than making sure orders are getting out on time, more than seeing data that showed like how effective and efficient we were. Is I enjoyed developing individuals to eventually take over my role. I loved seeing someone who maybe didn't even come from a great background, to be honest, and I would work with them. And I honestly, I would know them on a personal level. I would know how their family is doing. I'd know how their close friends are, their daughters, their sons, and I would know all of these unique stories from them. And the only thing I cared to do at the end of the day was honestly help them get to the next level. And so it was a snowball effect. I did that at the first warehouse. They brought me on over to another warehouse. Same thing, brand new crew, brand new talent that was there. And the thing that I asked them to do though was, hey, if you're bringing me on, let me be the gent who trains these individuals. I want to be the guy who, works with them hands on. I want to be that person. And honestly, that spurred this desire to really keep developing people. And that's where that passion came from. Where I'm at currently with my own journey, my wife and I, we have one goal for ourselves, and this is the one goal that makes us always ask how we are going to raise our own bar, and that's what my podcast is all about. For at least my own self, is we need our families close in our lives. Again, my family, they're from Iowa, heart of the Midwest, and then her family is from Australia, literally halfway around the world from that point. And so we know that no matter where our lives take us, we want to be able to bring that family close together and always have them in our lives actively in our lives. And that's kind of where we're at. And so my journey where it currently stands is just trying to figure out, how do we piece it all together? But I don't want to lose my passion, that thing that I started to find. And so where I'm at right now is I'm just developing that coaching and development course, and I'm developing this podcast that I've been working on for a bit now. And the only way to do that, honestly, is I'm trying to understand what other journeys have people been on, and that's really what it's all about.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think myself also personally, I always in management and kind of senior roles at other companies, I was always kind of passionate about bringing people up and seeing kind of the potential in people, regardless if they saw it in them or not. Kind of, like you said, understanding what they're going through in their personal lives and really learning about what qualities they possess that can carry over into a role. So
Yep.
there's, I mean, there's plenty of people that I've kind of took on and trained and learned and taught, and then they learned because they had the willingness to do so. People straight out of school, and it was like it's really neat to see in terms of kind of that progression and just kind of being selfless in the fact. So like there was a agency I was at where I had direct reports and I was kind of bringing them on. I was in charge of digital marketing, so the people were traditionally writers, but then I was teaching them about social media strategy, SEO, and I mean everything connects, and really developed an additional skill set that they were able to go elsewhere and get roles within the things that I've taught them. And I think kind of being selfless, I guess, in the workplace too. So things like employee reviews. I would tell the owners of the company
Yeah.
to do their reviews first rather than mine, and not go in like a hierarchical order, because
Yeah.
that's a hard word, but for
Yeah.
me at least, because I wanted to show the value of those employees and that they
Yeah.
actually matter to the company.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you know what? I love it when you're being selfless. Like you don't. That honestly is one of my big things. I would rather give the shirt off my back to help someone else be able to advance forward than me take something from them. Like I don't understand the thought about doing it the opposite way. Like it, I've never considered myself trying to be a teacher in the classroom just because I don't feel like that's a setting that I'm great with. But when it comes down to seeing people who finally get those aha moments, like, oh man, I finally get it. I know where I want to take myself and I know how to get there. That is the thing that I find just the most enjoyment behind it. And there was a lot of times, in those, higher up roles where you got to do these reviews and they ask them to be so standardized, and it's just like, I don't feel like this review is really caring about how this individual is actually getting to the next level, and like how I have seen their progressionary track be. And you know what, sometimes I had this one individual, and he was a very older individual, just an older guy in general, and he did not know how to count. He actually did not know how to count. And so he came to me one day, after we had been working, because I had asked him, hey, how was everything going, how was your numbers? And he came to me finally, he goes, look, hey, I got to be honest with you, I don't know. And I go, what do you mean you don't know? And he goes, well, I feel nervous, and I feel obviously self-conscious about this, but I don't know how to properly count. And so I went ahead and I made dedicated time for myself and him at the ends of the shift, because it's the only time, and it was only on Tuesdays and Thursdays that this would happen. And him and I worked. And now he has, and I'm not saying again I'm a mathematician or anything like that, but just to be able to perform what I think a lot of us take for granted with that, because he knew that if he could understand that, then maybe something else could open up for him. And that's why he came to me with that. And I said, hey, look, I don't care. Done. My schedule. What works for you? I'll take it. Half hour, whatever you need. And so I worked with him one on one on the basic function of what we did in the warehouse. And to this day, he is now like one of the leads for that role, and he's really working at it. He actually sent me an email not too long ago about just like how things are going, and all of those progressionary things that he's been able to experience. And so he just couldn't thank enough. And it's that moment that you're just like, well, that's what I was meant to do. I was meant to help you. And that's what my journey and my goal is to be for moving forward.
Yeah, and it's rewarding. It obviously didn't necessarily tie directly in like your career advancement or
No.
what you were working at in terms of goals, but it added value. And obviously, that's something that changed the trajectory of his career and the abilities he had, and other things in terms of kind of providing for his family or whoever he has in his life. So it opened up new doors. And I mean, it's one person that's kind of better at their job because you left him, and that company, if he's still at that company,
Yep.
is a lot better for it because he actually can do his job better, and now he can do other things as well.
Yeah. No, definitely. Absolutely. And so again, but it was that remembrance, I think, of what I did to try to help the individual out. Uh, that's that feeling, and that's where it's what started my whole journey with even beginning the coaching course and trying to be a leader behind that.
Yeah, I agree. So, what motivates you to succeed? Obviously, you kind of dove into those motivations in terms of family, being close to your family,
Mm.
and things of that nature. Is there anything else outside of that that, kind of makes you tick or motivates you to succeed?
Honestly, my passion, there's a lot of little elements that go throughout the day where I do that whole sit back in the chair moment. And I go, do I like this? Like, is this something that I'm enjoying? Like, is this really, okay, is this the thing I want to be doing? And the thing that's, kept me going, of course, again, it's that number one goal. It's we want to keep our families together. But as I look towards what my next big thing in my life will be for my wife and I will be having kids. That's one thing that we are ecstatic about. But if there's one thing I also do know is at least the exposure that I've had with my own family is that I never want to waste an opportunity. And I want my kids to see that same thing. I want them to see that, dad's doing something he loves. And, they see mom, she's doing something she loves. And they're not just doing the day to day in and out, nope, I just had to do it just because it puts food on that table. It puts the roof over your head. Like I want them to be able to see that, your passion can truly grow and you can really make something out of it because and I said this to my team a lot. Look, we are here doing our job. And again, there's a difference between job, there's a difference between career, there's a difference between your passion with that. They're all very different things. Sure, at the end of it, you might be able to find that paycheck with that, but that doesn't mean you're tied to it. Your emotional, your driven self is tied to each one of those things. They're all different in their respected ways. But for me, I want my future kids to be able to look at me and go, Dad, why do you do this? Oh, I do this because I get to do this, 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 and oh, I got to meet this incredible person. And then the very last thing gets to be in the very last thing gets to be about and we get to have ourselves a nice house and all that other stuff where that money element ties in. Don't get me wrong, I very much of course wish to make good money that obviously supports all of those other elements, but I would rather have my excitement shine through because as a kid, so many things excited me. I kind of want to be little me as an adult now because little me was goofy, was fun, exciting, outgoing, entertaining, kind of a a dweeb, but that's okay, and I because I love that guy, and so I'm trying to never lose it, and I kind of hope my kids will see that and they can kind of feed off of that too. So that's really keeping the passion. That's the big one for me.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you mentioned it a little earlier in that response, kind of taking advantage of every opportunity
Mhm.
because that opportunity may not come around. So something, a role,
Yeah.
some kind of business relationship, something that may be some scary move or something else, where it's something that you kind of, if you pray about it or however you kind of like talk with your wife about it and come to the conclusion to take it, that may not come around exactly the same way or at all a second time. So really
Well,
know and taking opportunity of what you're given and what you have to work with. Obviously, some people have it a little easier than others in terms of the variables to success or whatever they're
mhm.
trying to reach. But whatever's kind of in your way or whatever your journey, just take advantage of what you're given and make do with it.
And you know what? This actually does not come from me myself, but this comes from numerous other individuals. But I'm definitely going to take it upon for myself, and this is what I believe. Whomever is listening to this, if you're kind of considering these things for yourself, don't close any doors when it comes to that opportunity because at the end of the day you only can see opportunity if you allow it to be presented to you if you it's and actually I think what was it, Jim Carrey, Yes Man, or was the movie or something like that, where he was always know this, know that, and things that honestly brought him all that pressure in his own life was because he shut it out. It's a goofy movie, and no, I'm not saying you should go ahead and buy the ultimate California King mattress or whatever that he buys in the movie. But what I am saying is don't shut out those opportunities, because guess what? Sometimes at first glance, it may not seem like an opportunity. Honestly, it to you at first glance, it might be like, oh, that's just an inconvenience. But what you don't understand is that ripple effect that it could potentially bring to you later down the track.
Yeah, I agree. So, what's one thing that you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've turned around and utilized as a strength today?
Attention. 100% is attention to being able to be focused. I'm very much a creature of habit, and I would keep myself on the same repeat cycle day in and day out. And I basically did not give myself enough time to refocus on making the changes to have that happen. And I didn't also pay attention to, the things that being on the repeat caused for me, and then they took things from me basically. So when you are stuck and people say the rut, the cycle, whatever it is, you're doing this, right? But you're never deviating off from that. And that's why, my previous statement about, you need to be open for opportunities is so vital, because if you're just constantly going through the motions day in and day out, you're not allowing yourself to basically be able to see that. And that was my problem. Oh man, and even still to this day, there are times when, and my wife can, agree to this day in and day out. I miss the small things sometimes. I definitely do. I miss the small things. Because I will either feel like I understand it enough that I can just do it my own way and think that that's just all fine and dandy, or I'm not tuned into what's around me. Actually, I had a note about this the other day, and I was kind of saving it for this if this came up. It was noticing the forks in your life, and let me kind of explain. My wife, she made us dinner the other night, and really good dinner. And I go up, I grab my bowl of food, I'm getting my napkin, I'm coming back down, and then I'm like, oh, crap, I didn't grab a fork. So I go on back, I open the drawer, I grab the fork, I'm sitting down. Well, after we're done eating and watching, for the 10th time, another episode of NCIS, we all of a sudden, she comes back over and she looks at the counter. She goes, are you serious? And I go, what? What'd I do? Did you not see the fork that I laid out for you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? And she goes, well, you picked up your bowl, which was there. You picked up the napkin, which was there, but I also laid you out a fork. Did you not know that? And I was like, no. She goes, did you not also see that it was above the drawer that you'd have to pull out to grab that fork? And I was like, oh my God, no. I didn't see it at all. And the reason why I use this as an example is because there are times when you've got this goal in your mind, or you think you know what to do, but you are so focused on knowing what the steps are that you would take to do it, you sometimes blind yourself from being able to notice the other things around it. And, something that was honestly, if I had moved my eyes up this little much, I would have seen that fork and it would have been like, oh, that's for me. But I didn't realize it. I just assumed I knew how to do every part of it. So when you're out there, see if someone's handing you the tool that you need to do your next task. Because sometimes you might just think, oh, I can do it all myself, but there's help out there. You just need to pay attention to it.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of the time, things are right in front of you. I don't know. The fork example, and my wife would attest to just things like that are subtle or just like right in front of me. And I am kind of, things come up like your mind is wandering. You have like
Yeah.
you're not you I personally need to like take a step back and be more in the moment and be more in tune in the moment and not like running 20 steps ahead or formulating like at times I treat my life and things that I have to do in terms of personal and professional like a chess game, like have 20 moves ahead.
Yeah.
Like taking the time, enjoying and being aware of your surroundings, you can truly kind of get, I don't know about get a lot further, but utilize the things you're given better if you're more aware of them, in present time.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's kind of like that whole thing where all of a sudden you're driving down the road and it's something that you do on the regular, but you're not even thinking about the road. You're thinking about where you're about to go. And then all of a sudden you come up to that stoplight that you've been to a million times, but you kind of go, wait, I just left the house. How am I 3 miles down the road already? You completely negate that whole journey that you just traveled because again you're trying to prepare yourself for whatever's about to come when in fact maybe there are some other things maybe you should have noticed along the way.
Yeah, I agree. So, what's one thing you can leave in terms of a piece of advice, personal or professional, for the audience?
When it comes down to personal, look, take the time to experience the journey. Honestly, that's one big thing because guess what? At the end of the day, this is your story, and don't be the individual who doesn't know what happened. Be the person who is able to say, oh, well, my journey was actually like this. Be able to talk about some of those key points. Um, I can't express enough that there is times when I am trying to find out particular, bits of evidence and or understanding of why people were in certain situations, and they respond with, "Well, I have no idea where I was at. I don't know where I was going." And it boggles me. It's like, I just think that if we take the time to realize where you're currently at, then you will have a better appreciation because it's kind of like a self check system with yourself. You kind of reflect on where did I start with and how I got there. And I really know all of those bits and pieces. And then when it comes under your personal growth, one of the biggest things that comes for personal is understand the opportunities. I know I kind of touched on it too, but you know what? There may be someone who you are looking up to. And guess what? Maybe that someone might be, kind of not the greatest individual. But at the end of the day, guess what? People are in their roles because they do have skills. And if you are looking to try to improve yourself, you should recognize those skills. And it might be difficult to swallow, but at the end of the day, if Tom's really remarkable at, being able to effectively lay everything out so then that way it's presented in a manner that everyone understands, and you are typically that one who kind of jumps all over the place, well, you know what? Take a second, go, hey, Tom, look, you did this really great, reflect on it, and don't be afraid to ask. At the end of the day, what's the worst thing that happens? No, they say no. Okay, so it's like a date in high school. Like, oh my gosh, Joanne Smith, she's so incredibly pretty. I'm afraid that she won't say yes to the Sadie's Hawkins dance or ask me out. You know what? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because guess what? You still put yourself out there. The worst thing that can happen, you already know what it is. The best thing that can happen can be you've got yourself one of the coolest, memories that you've got, and you might learn something along the way. That's what you got to do in business too. Don't be afraid to see the talent, and definitely don't be afraid to ask for help with it.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the biggest problems and fears people have is the fear of getting a no. So in business, obviously, in sales and anything, but I think it gets easier as you do it and see that
Mm-hmm.
it's not as scary. And the worst thing is a no. It's not like they're gonna attack you or ridicule you for asking, but you never know. I think when I switched over to actually doing that and going up to people at different events that they may not want to talk to me for a minute or hear what I have to say, or develop some kind of networking relationship, or
Yeah.
even ask a simple question that may take a minute to respond. So I mean, you never know, and it's one of those things in terms of regret. You don't regret the things that you did try. I mean, maybe you failed at something, you learned if you took something and learned from it, but if you didn't do it or attempt it at all or ask for something, more likely than not, down the line, you're going to think, what if, and what could have happened? What could have been the path? And how could have my life been different if you're like 20, 30 years down the line and you're not happy with you where you are? And if you were afraid to, receive those no's, you're going to second guess yourself in terms of where you
Yeah, you
could have
are. Yeah, you are 100%. Don't be the person who's lying in bed and you wake up and my God, you got to put your two piece on, just to say you've got hair and you kind of go, I should have done that. Don't do that. Just do it.
been. Yeah, I agree. So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Yeah. Hey, absolutely, guys. Hey, look, you guys can find me out on Facebook and message me any way you want to. Again, it's Trevor Courtier with Facebook. If you guys want to tune into the Raising the Bar podcast, hey, you can find that on multiple podcast services, Spotify, Anchor. Just go ahead and look it up. Again, it's all about just, finding your journey and, how did you get there? Other than that, guys, those are the primaries. Thank you, Roman, so much for having me on. It was a pleasure, mate.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping by.
Cheers.